Anthony Melchiori, I feel like I need a little bit of a mental health checkup today. Yeah, exactly.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to No Vacancy Live. That's my friend Glenn.
You're watching the #1 show in hospitality. Anthony Melchiori, my friend, great to see you. You appear to still be in Las Vegas at the Nomad. Congratulations.
Yes, and I got to tell you a good hotel story.
Okay.
This morning, I wasn't feeling great, right? I woke up and I just wanted oatmeal. That's all I wanted was oatmeal. And they said, well, they don't have oatmeal normally because they don't have their regular food and beverage because of what's going on with the pandemic and low oxygen and stuff. So I said, well, really? Okay. And the lady said, hold on one second. She goes, let me talk to the chef. So she went to the chef. Chef said, absolutely, we'll make them oatmeal. So they brought me up the oatmeal. It was the best oatmeal I've ever had. Wow, that's awesome. It was literally the best oatmeal I've ever had. It was great. That is awesome. I can see you're still very excited about it. I've never seen such passion before coming from you. All right, Anthony. You know what I'm excited about? I got to tell you, because today's show is brought to you by Best Buy Business, a leader in providing technology solutions for hotels. And Anthony, they carry all the major brands of hospitality TVs at great prices. They've got over 4,000 Geek Squad agents to help you and can tackle any size job. And the important thing is they're there for more than just selling you stuff. They can do all those installations. They can take all of that stuff away, all of the things that hotel owners need to do when upping their technology game. So be sure to visit them at bestbuy.com. You don't think of hotels. No, you don't, right? But they are, and they're actively engaged. We all use them in our personal life. And I got to tell you, I learned that there's a Best Buy in the Pentagon yesterday, Anthony. How cool is that? Yeah? There's a Best Buy in the Pentagon, so it doesn't get anything done? Well, the Best Buy in the Pentagon does. Sorry, Best Buy. Go to bestbuy.com/hospitality to learn more about it. So today we're going to be focused on mental health issues and helping your executive team, helping your property level people. We've got the great Dr. Erin Berman from the National Institute of Mental Health back with us. A command performance. She was that universally loved. We had to bring her back today. And I did want to say, first up, we got Mr. Chris Green coming in just to say hello. And I wanted to say, hey, Chris, I'm over here, not at your Hotel Indigo St. Louis. Let's take a look at your awesome property over here. How beautiful is that? Yeah, that's cool. That is a beautiful room over there. So welcome to the show. Yeah. Chris, before we bring in Dr. Berman, which will be any second now, Doctor, she's hanging out backstage. What are you thinking about when it comes to the mental health of your team at the executive level and the property level?
Well, I mean, it's been a major concern for us. And we all have talked about it, the highs and lows we experience. And then imagine the teams at the property level dealing with being on the front lines during this pandemic. And then also the executive team that we're leading through. I've talked about leading through pea soup, right? It's just very, very difficult to make any kind of decisions. And all of our lives have had data sets that we could work upon and our gut feelings from all of our experience to draw upon to move forward. And a lot of those things are all knocked off kilter. I can tell you that personally, I've experienced it, as I've shared with you, just the highs and the lows of not being able to make good decisions because of such weak data looking forward and the constantly changing, uncertain data going forward. So it's been a concern. And honestly, I'm looking forward to this conversation today with Dr. Berman to understand, not only what's going on, but how we can help, because this is something that's going to live after the pandemic is over. We're going to be dealing with kind of the aftershock of this for a while. And we need to know how to do it. And it doesn't seem like, okay, what does that have to do with hospitality? Well, first, hospitality is people, as you know, and our people are struggling and they've got all these pressures that we don't even talk about sometimes. The kids at home for school and worrying about their relatives and worrying about their mothers and fathers and protecting them while they're out at work. There's all this, and then financial pressure, right? We're in the worst time in the history of our business. So we've got all this going. It's a tremendous load to bear. And I know that it's causing pain and suffering for a lot of people.
It sure is. So let's bring in Dr. Erin Berman. Dr. Erin Berman, welcome back to the show. Anthony will be back. I think he's having a little headset delay issue. He's trying to figure that out. Thank you so much for rejoining us on today's show. We really appreciate you being here. So is what Chris is saying something that rings really true to you in your capacity in helping people with their mental health?
Yeah, I mean, he just hit upon probably, 5 of the top reasons people come, with acute stress disorders. And the issue is this has been going on chronically, obviously since March, So the big ones are, lack of certainty, financial stress, stress of raising children. And also another big group that we talked about was kind of that sandwich generation that have kids and their older adult parents. Those are the ones that are really stretched. So all of that is a recipe for, even for the strongest person, to have a stress disorder at the least, let alone depression, anxiety, panic, all those things that go with so much uncertainty.
Right. So, Dr. Berman, before we get into the thick of the conversation, perhaps you could share a little bit about, for folks who've never seen you before, what your role is at the Institute and how you're out there trying to help Americans.
Yeah, so I work at the National Institute of Mental Health. We're part of the bigger group of the National Institute of Health. And we primarily work on really improving treatment for anxiety disorders. We have pretty decent understanding of anxiety and stress, but we still are not quite there yet at reaching enough people. So working on that and really refining how we treat individuals as well. So my main area is cognitive behavioral therapy, and I work with all age ranges. Because we know anxiety can be in a 4-year-old, but equally up to an 85-year-old. But actually, when you look at the data, as you get a little bit older, you don't care as much. So they seem to have a little less anxiety at like 75 plus.
That's great. I'm looking forward to being 86, so I'll be stress-free there, Dr. Berman. Exactly. That'll be perfect. Yeah, I think when you get to that point, you're not even worried about, the bitter end over there because you get so exhausted. I'm having a hard enough time at 50. I'm like, I've had enough of it already. Well, I'm just sort of kidding, but it is tough to get out of bed every single morning. Anthony, you must have had an easy time getting out of bed this morning after having a great day in Las Vegas yesterday.
Well, I'm great that you remember that I was here. Hi, everyone. How are you?
Oh, well, I wanted to make sure that your tech issue was taken care of and we know who Dr. Berman is. So, Anthony, take it away. I'm going to be quiet now to make it up to you for the next 45 minutes. How's that sound?
No, you do all the work. I'll just sit here and listen to you. But how much is it, because there's not a human being walking the face of the earth that doesn't suffer from anxiety, right? So how much is it right now situational because of what's going on and temporary? And how much is it that people are really now finding out this was the trigger to say, I suffered from this my whole life, and this is just the impetus that started everything. Now, also, with the election being over for most people, there's some people, like my cab driver, that think there's 90 million votes somewhere that is hidden. But besides that, the election being over, how much stress is that alleviated? Because I know a lot of people that had a lot of anxiety about that, and they seem to be much better. They seem to be talking about politics less. They seem to be less interested in it all of a sudden, whereas before it consumed every waking moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true, but part of it is also the way that we got the information. Think about it. It's like how quick it was changing with the election, things that move from day to day, and back to kind of the theme of what causes more anxiety is that unpredictability. And I think now there's kind of at least a pretty definitive answer. And I think you're right. People's anxiety can, kind of take down a notch from at least that perspective.
Can I?
So go for it, Chris.
Dr. Berman, so do all of the things we're talking about really fall under whatever you would call the spectrum of anxiety? Or would you also say that some of it's like I'm not a doctor, obviously, I'm a hotel guy. So like on the depression side, or is anxiety kind of the overarching feeling that you would say is most prevalent now? And how does that differ? How does it show up different ways? Like stress-related anxiety, or I'm not sure what I'm asking, but is anxiety the overarching concern right now?
What's interesting is actually, and Anthony kind of alluded to it, let's talk about 3 things real briefly. There's stress, which is just like a reaction to what's, challenging and going on, but it's shorter lived. And anxiety disorder is something that's more chronic. So now after all this time, that's very prominent. And then depression is a kind of a third issue, which can be on its own, or many times people who are dealing with chronic anxiety will start to get symptoms of depression because they've been so exhausted by their anxiety, they have a hard time getting out of bed, being motivated their day. So it's all kind of interconnected, but those are three separate things. And some people can just be affected by depression or just by stress.
Okay.
How do you normally deal with your anxiety? Because this is tough on everyone, including you, even though you're a professional in this field. What is your everyday like as far as trying to, when you feel the stress or the anxiety coming on?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing to do, which is so hard because our technology makes us, it's really, disengaging from it. I used to have, my work email on my phone, and I literally took it off. So I have to actually make the extra steps to get onto my computer. So on those days I do that. Obviously, although it's really cold, I don't care. Going outside every day, is really helpful. And the third thing, which I think maybe a lot of people who are professionals and wear many hats right now, whether you're a caregiver, partner, alone time, I have to say, I have to really find and carve that out for myself sometimes, because people can pull you in a million directions when you have a lot of responsibilities, like all of you probably do,
Yeah, absolutely. That's critical right now, alone time and being able to take care of yourself. You look very good today, Chris. You look very rested. You've been taking care of yourself, I can tell.
Well, that's one thing I've been trying to do to deal with the stress, right? I listen to good people like Dr. Berman and try to get some quiet time. I've not gone so far as taking my work email off my phone. I think that would be like, I don't even know how I would deal with that, but that sounds like a wonderful idea. I just don't know how it would work. But yeah, getting away from tech this past weekend, I got away from technology for 4 days, and it was just here at the house, and it was great. I feel rested. So I think these are all, and I'd love to hear more strategies. Maybe when you think about our employees, Dr. Berman, that are in the field, that are on the front lines, that are dealing with not only their own stress, but the stress of the guests coming into the building that are dealing with uncertainty and worried about COVID and everything else. What are some more tips that you would give to people that are in those high stress type roles, first responders, frontline workers, to help themselves, maybe that are different than what you and I would do in an office environment? Is there other tips that you would give, like make sure they sleep? I don't know, those type of things.
Yeah, I mean, you're 100% right. You want just the basics, which are so hard to do right now. I think that's why a lot of people are struggling. Getting the right amount of sleep, eating at a normal time, those are the basics, which can help you obviously function at a lot higher level. I think the other two things is normalizing this, now at least everyone's talking about it. And again, that's why I'm grateful for this show to put it out there. Nor just simply normalizing anxiety will reduce anxiety to some extent, because people won't be so stuck in their heads, right?
Oh, that's good.
So that's a really important that leaders make that clear, that this isn't weird to be feeling this way.
And right now, I want to kind of go a little bit deeper in the sense of what's happening today. There are food lines all over America we've never seen before. There's people in our industry, entry level, mid level employees that haven't had a paycheck and they're living off unemployment, and they're having food insecurities and they're having real stress. They have their mortgage that they're worried about, their rent they're worried about, and you said having balanced meals. There's some people that have maybe one meal a day or maybe one meal every couple of days. That is paralyzing stress. And I know one of the things I do when I'm feeling very stressed is I make sure that I'm doing something, even if it's something mindless. But how do you give advice to someone that's really literally crippled with a fear of their financial future? I mean, that's probably not your expertise, but I mean, that's really, not your everyday kind of anxiety. That's crippling.
Yeah, correct. And I think resources would probably be the way to do the most that you can provide. You can do the legwork to think about that. They're exhausted, right? So you can just add, to them, these are some things I know where these resources you can either talk to someone. There's plenty of that now, more online than ever. Not even that. These are the food bank areas. This is a place where you can get financial rent assistance. But you providing that, can maybe add a little bit of security in a very insecure situation.
Right, and that's a good point, because there are services out there where when people get so depressed and so riddled with anxiety, they don't move. They don't, and I think movement is important. And when I mean movement, I don't mean exercising. I mean, go take a step, go down and listen. Maybe you'll be, I remember, a couple times in my life when I was really struggling, you're embarrassed by it. Listen, you have to get over that. And the good news is today everybody's wearing a mask, so just go do what you have to do. Go stand on the food line. or go get some help from them. There's so many services out there. So anyone listening, I think that is critical. We've got to get rid of the shame. You did not lose this industry. This industry, it's a problem right now, and it's not your fault. It's no one's fault. It is what it is, and no one's holding you accountable. It's not like, you got fired for not showing up or you got fired for not performing. This is a problem. And I mean, I was walking through the hotel yesterday, and you see employees, but you know that there's a lot of employees not here, and you just sense it. And it's just that, to me right now, is the shame. People have got to get rid of that. It's like, if you've been out of work for 8 months or 9 months, it is not your fault.
Yeah. So let me go to a quick question. Somebody who's being very forthright and honest about their experience. Donna G. Jode Matthews says, I've been in the hospitality industry for more than 30 years and currently work on a cafe and an Amtrak train. Very, very scary. Ridership is so down and people don't wear their masks. And she has a history of anxiety and depression. Most difficult year of her life. That is, first of all, I give you a lot of credit, Donna, for going there and facing your fears, especially with anxiety and depression that can be so debilitating, to get out there and be able to do your job every single day. You deserve great kudos for being able to do that. I've had a lot of people in my life that have not been able to meet those day-to-day challenges. So good for you. So I got to ask you then, Dr. Berman, this is probably something that you've seen over and over. What do you tell somebody that's in this particular situation, which I think boils down to their fear of lack of control in a situation?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the one thing we always know is change is inevitable, and not that that's the most comforting thing, but do understand that, like you said, normalizing it, that you actually put yourself out there and express it will help. But then also just realizing that, I mean, not that we have to be all, I do work a lot with mindset, and it's not like all puppy dogs and rainbows, but it does look like there might be some light at the end of the tunnel, and grounding yourself either in that, or somebody needs something more immediate. Okay, what can I be grateful for today? And it can be just that guy wore a mask. I feel for her that she's working so hard, and that, this is kind of something you have to contend with every day, and it's right in her face. So that's hard to ignore,
Right.
Yeah, and that's something I everyone around me is wearing a mask, but even when I see somebody wearing it wrong, I don't get infuriated quickly. I feel immediate anger, because it's so unnecessary. So I can imagine working there every single day and having to deal with people who are not following the guidelines to keep everyone else safe. Chris, were you going to say something?
I was just going to ask Dr. Berman, is there value when you're dealing with these type of issues to at least accepting that these are the current circumstances, right? So, I mean, I think we all struggled in the beginning that this can't be real, this can't last, this can't be the way it is. But for me personally, once I reset my kind of thermostat to this is where we are, and we know we're going to come back, and I can look to the future for positives and be grateful for things that are now, the health and my family, whatever. Is there value for your own mental stability to say, okay, I understand where we are and this is where we are, and try and make peace with that? Or does that create strife by just not accepting the current circumstances?
I mean, that's a very important statement. It's, if you keep pushing it away, which I think we all did in March, April, May. Oh, this is going to get better. This is fine. We're okay. This is going to come out quickly. It actually makes it worse. When we push away something that's right in front of us that we can't change. So acceptance is very important. It's very hard for a lot of people to do, and especially when they're experiencing financial hardships, etc. But obviously it is where we are, and what can we do today? That's kind of that's what acceptance helps you do. Then when we can think of what we can do versus getting stuck in our head, which is the problem.
Right.
Let me throw in there something positive, Anthony. Zach King lost his job at the start of COVID, and it led to find a much better career. So it's not always negative, right, Anthony?
You know what? And it's about movement. It's about figuring it out. It's about, you have to have a PhD in figuring stuff out right now. And, one of the things you said about acceptance, I remember, I have a strong personality, but in the beginning, I realized this is a brick wall I'm not going to be able to get through right now. So let me just take a breath. Let me talk about stamina. We talked about a lot in the beginning of the pandemic.
Yep.
And I remember saying to myself, I remember Chris looking at you going, Chris thinks it's going to be over like a week. Like, it was just, you had such a great positive attitude. And it's not that I didn't have a positive attitude. I was just like, I'm going to sit over here, and when the world reopens, just let me know. And I needed to do that to make myself feel better that I have control. That it really gave me a sense of control by saying, I'm going to sit here and instead of banging my head against the wall. Whereas Chris, he had this big company, he had all these people that he had to worry about, and his attitude was he had to move, and he kept a very positive attitude. Not that I didn't have a positive attitude, but I was able to sit out a little bit more and just say, hey, when the world opens up, I'll be back. But right now, I'm going to take a seat. If I didn't, I would have had tremendous anxiety and stress because I want to fix everything.
But
I'm a fixer. It's what I do.
And I think that, Anthony, that comes with self-awareness, and that's something that we all have to be, is when you start sensing that, and I'm not perfect at it, but I know that for me, I have to, like you, move forward, or else I will fall into the pit. I do get anxious, and that's just who I am. So the only way I combat that is being self-aware and go, okay, I'm feeling this way. I'm going to start pushing forward. I'm going to make some changes that are going to help me push towards the future. I did want to comment to Donna, the one that we took her comment before, that I wanted to say thank you. I travel on those Amtraks, and I appreciate what you do more than you know. After a long trip, having something from the cafe car is just amazing, and the service has been amazing every time I've been on. So thank you for what you do. You probably don't hear that enough, but us business travelers that go back and forth from DC to New York all the time, I mean, we appreciate you guys, and we wouldn't be who we are in hospitality without people like you. So thank you for opening up and sharing. Transparency and talking about it helps us to get better as a group and realizing that you're not alone. So thanks for being honest with us.
You know, it's funny you say that. I was walking around the hotel yesterday, and I'm scared crap at everybody because they're cleaning the crap out of everything. They're cleaning handrails, constantly. And I'm walking up behind people, and side of people, in front of people, going, "Good morning, how are you?" Before they even have a chance to recognize me to say good morning, because I'm so enthusiastic to see them working, so enthusiastic that they're here. And I literally walk out of my way to go find someone cleaning, and I go, "Hey, good morning, how are you?" And I walk past them. I'll go 100 feet out of my way just to say good morning and put a smile on their face, or at least in their eyes, because I can't see their smile. And to me, it's almost as important for me. It's reminding me that the hotels are open. You know, there are people working. There are people relaxing. There are people on vacation. So I agree with you, Chris. The service industry, people just don't get enough. We get way too much credit, and the people actually doing the heavy lifting don't get enough.
Yeah. Chris?
Dr. Berman, what are the concerns that when we do get out of this mess? So what are the concerns that you're talking about when the vaccine's out, but we're moving forward? What are y'all's at the National Institute? What are your concerns for people?
Well, I think the people that, primarily a lot of people will not maybe even be encouraged to come back. So, reaching out to those that, either worked, in the industry that are out of work, they're going to, if anything, when you get stuck alone, it's going to be hard to come back out into this. So reintegrating back into the world and back into kind of a regular routine. You brought something up about 20 minutes ago about just helping them make sure that when you are back, when you feel, people are going to want to, then the other end of the spectrum is people are going to want to go gung-ho and work 12-hour days, and they'll just be so grateful, but they need to take care of themselves and slowly get back into it, because we don't want kind of, another concern on that end that people burn themselves out.
And what advice can you give to people, if I can, Glenn, real quick, what advice can you give to people that are dealing with people around them, or friends, or family, or even employees that are laid off, that are not just dealing with your everyday anxiety, but really depressed and maybe suicidal? How do you get that person help if that person's pushing you away?
Yeah, again, I think one thing is just making sure that you curate those, like you just have not a newsletter, but like, okay, this is something that everyone needs to look at. Here are 5 resources, right, that most people are using nowadays. Again, what I had I listened to a lecture yesterday, and they were saying how even in a kind of substance abuse, that group that we work with actually was saying that more people are compliant with online telehealth than they used to be. So before we get a rate about 60-70% of about 30% of no shows, I would even have that, and then now I've got about 90%, because most people it kind of loses the stigma. They don't have to go to that clinic. They can text someone, call someone, so just creating a list of resources, although it seems very like minor, can really help, someone. And as we talk about normalizing that this is something that everyone's going to be going through on their way back into a kind of, lack of a better word, normal world again.
Right.
So
Now this is Anthony, go ahead.
when you're in the middle of a conversation with someone and you're an expert, so I'm sure you don't get as frustrated as maybe a family member or a friend, what are the words or a sentence that you can kind of do to kind of have them reflect or kind of stop having them go down this path? Like, are there a couple of tools that you use in order to stop them spiraling, even for that moment, even for that conversation where they're just going back and forth on the same thing over and over again? What kind of tools or words or sentences do you use to turn things?
You're saying for someone who's like kind of stuck, perseverating on something that's probably not helpful for them, right?
Right, and they can't get out of it. They're literally on on a treadmill and they just can't get out of it.
Yeah, and some people are so used to that, have kind of such an obsessive thought pattern. It's very, very hard. So one, you can try your best, but even the best, I've had people in session that just keep going and I can't stop them. Usually one thing I do use a lot is humor if they're really stuck, because you got to get them out of their head. If that's too harsh for some of the people, I think just reflect back. So like you're saying, so you're really saying that, I think you said 10 times that the world's going to end. So just reflecting back, because when they say it out of their own head, it sounds really great. When you repeat it back to someone, then maybe they might change their mindset a little bit.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. So, interestingly enough, we were talking about telehealthcare benefits. Chris, that's something that you have focused on at Chesapeake. What made you decide to move ahead and do that? How's it working for you as a company, and are you seeing any positive results being shared back with you?
Well, I think we're lucky that we have you guys talked to Brenda, our head of HR, and we have a forward-thinking team over there that really early on, like when we created our whole website about care for the associates, we also put up all of our benefits for them being able to access telehealth mental care and we didn't know that it would be the way that it is, but even job loss is a big enough stressor to create that. And we talk about it. As a matter of fact, we had an all-company call a couple of weeks ago, and we talked, listen, you're going to struggle with ups and downs. There's no way not to because of uncertainty. And it's okay. And here's how you connect with somebody, and it's private. And we don't know that you connected, and they will help you through these visits. And yeah, there's been great engagement. And honestly, I was with the team last week in Pittsburgh, and they were just thankful for the resources and the openness to say it's okay to feel this way, to feel that. You know how transparent I am. I've said when I feel down or whatever. So I'm the same way with my team, and they think it's just great to be able to be honest and about how they're feeling, because it's just a brutal time. So I think if you can, honestly, if you have a health program at your company, it's pretty easy to bolt this on, and quite frankly, it can help your performance of your plan, and because using telehealth is much more easy and efficient, and can handle a lot of the conversational items that you need to handle. So it's been great.
Yeah, before this, when people would work with therapists, do telehealth, whatever it is, people may have looked down on them and said, "Oh, okay, they're the weak link," right? Now, of course, that's not true. That's a stigma that I'm sure you fight all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Talking to someone, if I have cancer, I go get treatment. But if I have mental health issues, people look down on me. Now, I would hope that people realize I'm more nervous about the people not talking to somebody. If you're not talking to somebody right now, I'm a little scared. Because everyone should be talking. So I would be more proud of people and the people that aren't, I'd be like, come here, I want to talk to you, because if you're not talking to somebody, give me whatever you're taking or what you're doing, because everybody right now could really use the help. So it's really, I would imagine do you think the stigma of mental health and therapy coming out of COVID, will it get better?
Yeah, I think it will. And for those for whatever reason, whether it's, part of the family culture, wherever it's harder, I think, again, telehealth, at least that's what the data is showing, will allow people to have the privacy.
Uh-oh. Dr. Berman. All right, she'll come back in a second. But, I'd be curious. Oh, wait, it looks like she's back. Let's bring her back in. Okay. How's your signal now? Please continue, Dr. Berman.
Better. Well, I guess we're talking about stigma overall. It's kind of something that will hopefully get a little bit better, but I think we all have to work at it. In the systemic level, like Chris is, kind of making things more, approachable and appropriate. But it takes a lot of work, honestly. And some people will not change. And it's funny that you bring up, and a lot of people are like, aren't you concerned about the people you talk to or when you work late at night? And I said, no, I'm more concerned about the people that don't talk to someone.
Right.
Those are the individuals that are keeping it, as we're talking about, inside your head, makes it much, much bigger and much more dangerous many times. We know that about suicide. People get concerned about talking or asking about, are you having suicidal thoughts? And we do know one of the best things you can do as a therapist, or if someone feels comfortable, are you having those thoughts? What are they about? Normalizing them and just getting that first intervention really helps people go, oh, okay, so this isn't so bad, because when it gets stuck in their head, as we all know, it gets much worse.
So how do we break through to people that say they're fine, they're fine, they're fine? We all encounter those people in our lives, but we know fundamentally they're not fine.
Some of them maybe will never be fine, I have to say. The other end is, and that's acceptance, because it goes back to what Chris is saying, which I think is important. Really, there's some people we won't be able to help. The other end is just sharing your own, the kind of what's troublesome for you. And in the old days, therapists were told not to disclose that they had any issues. I don't self-disclose everything. I don't tell everyone about my issues with, my neighbors or anything, but I will say, hey, when I was younger, this was hard for me. Or right now, I was scared of talking to people. Now, not so much, and just really expressing and letting people know that you're not, if you can self-disclose, it's very helpful.
Well, I've heard about your neighbors, and I could understand why you feel that way.
And Doc, just so you know, your neighbors actually called us to let us know about the problem they have with you.
Yeah, and yet we still had you on today.
You shouldn't have opened, Dr. Berman. You should not have opened that door.
I know, because I really want to keep going, but I'm going to stop it in case anyone would see.
Erin, this just shows that we like you.
I think that. And I think that's really important, being transparent. And I think I've talked about this on the show. When I was a young man, I had serious thoughts of suicide when I was very young, before the Air Force. And honestly, I thought it was normal, that maybe everybody did. And I just got to figure out how to resolve that for myself. And again, action, going in the Air Force was my thing. Anytime I have anxiety or I feel that I'm in my head, action, movement, whatever I need to do. And I've learned that early on. I haven't had those thoughts, but early on I felt completely desperate, but I also felt like everybody probably had them. And that was probably atypical, because most probably people feel they were the only ones that had them.
That is usually, yeah, exactly. It's usually the other way. But I mean, honestly, most people have had it at some point. We use it, the fancy psychologists, as intrusive thoughts. They can be all types of weird intrusive thoughts. We all have them. And it's how you react to them. It's kind of what you're describing.
So, Dr. Berman, I'm fascinated because I believe, and I want to get your thoughts on this, has the pandemic and all of the discussion around self-care, do you think it's, and also the way employer organizations care about their associates, do you think we're going to be entering into a new era of A, self-care, awareness of self-care, and then B, how employers think about the care of their associates, even on a greater level than in the past decade or so?
Yeah, I think we'll end up, now everyone's kind of collecting all this data. I think you were alluding to this before the show started. We're looking at the data and it keeps changing. I think we'll be able to have the data to support, that different industries will, if they make more an effort, people will be more productive. I think that's very true. We've always known it kind of in the background. We look at all the numbers before all this. World Health Organization used to say, I think depression was probably second, number 2 disability, that people were having, and would take them out of so much work and productivity. So sure, I think it will change, just again, as long as all of us are kind of pushing for that change and having environments that support it.
It's interesting. I just had a thought when you were talking that now when people do go back to work, they have to take the train and the bus, and they have to drop their kid off early and get home late and cook dinner and all that stuff, or missing ball games because they're commuting. I would imagine it's going to be anxiety the other way, where it's like, hey, I got used to this working in my pajamas. I got used to seeing my kids every day. I got used to having dinner every day. I'm not spending money on commuting. I like this. Can we just stay here? So I'd imagine a lot of people the anxiety of their job and of the commute and all the things they were dealing with, maybe this has actually alleviated some anxiety.
Yeah, I mean, certain people, it's interesting. I talked to some of my social phobics, and they say, sure, a little bit, but they also give the perspective of, well, everyone else is going to be having issues, so I actually feel better going back into work. So that's one perspective I've heard, which I think is very helpful. But you were alluding to something that's very important, which is, so as individuals where they do have the power to speak up a little bit in their work environment, hey, I can do 4 days of 12 hours, but I really need that last day to be with my kids. Can we do speaking to your employer about what your needs are? That can be very powerful if it's, in the environment that they can do that, which we're talking about problem solving then. So our problem solving skills have to change probably on the way back into our normal lives.
Right.
Well, we were, and Anthony will remember this, we were always an industry where you were more well thought of if you could work 16 to 18 hours a day and you were the last. It's called FaceTime, right? And everybody had to put in the FaceTime, or else probably in your internal, when you guys went through whatever that's called with doctors, I can't remember. But you just prove you're so good. Well, I think we've transitioned through some of the 08 and 09 and getting better about our associates and culture-based companies that really care about them. But I think even now, realizing that we've got to be really careful in an industry like ours that never stops, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to be really thoughtful about the pressure that we're consistently putting on our team members, and the ever increasing drive to drive better financials through more efficiency, that we've got to also remember the human element. And I think it's something that, for me at least, that I've really thought about through all of this, that when we come back, how are we going to do it better? How are we going to use technology to improve people's lives and give them a break from some of the pressures we're putting on, and be a part of the solution? And in an industry that was always about just how much time you could put in at the hotel.
Yeah. All right. We've got a number of really great questions that I want to get to. Kel's been putting up a lot of great statements. He's a college professor, and he gives his students permission to freak the F out, as he said it. But he also worries that changes will happen to one group in one income level, but not for the folks who really need it, the people working closer to minimum wage. Very interesting point, since we're seeing more of a divide in our society between the haves and have-nots, I think, than ever before, at least in my lifetime. Dr. Berman?
Yeah, I mean, and we see this with the pandemic that different, minority groups are getting hit at a different level, So I think whether it's minority, whether it's income level, we are seeing that across the board. So I think, it is something that all of us should, again, if it's for my end, it would be, working harder at where I do and making sure that telehealth is, available to a broader population. And then in a systemic level, making sure that you reach out more to those communities that have been underserved in general. So making a conscious effort as an organization to do that will be very important moving forward, because it is aware. It is something that's going on.
And a follow-up here, Mel L actually prefers in-person therapy, but because of COVID, she's unable to see the therapist. I don't feel I have anyone to talk to, and everyone seems to have their own problems with job loss, finances, health issues. Therapists are available but expensive and cost anywhere from $175 and up. What can somebody do who wants to seek healthy solutions, but doesn't have the financial wherewithal to find those solutions in traditional ways?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think with this push, honestly, of telehealth, you're looking at I don't know if the price is going to go terribly down. In-person therapy will probably always be maybe a little bit more, but automated health, they now have a program they have plenty of apps that, use cognitive behavioral therapy perspectives that you can use if you don't have someone, and they're pretty well automated at responding to you and what you're saying. You'll have to realize that it's not someone in person. I do have to say, they're totally right, though, that comment, because I've had a couple people who I haven't been able to see because they prefer the in-person, that kind of, level of connection. And it's true, it's something that either you kind of have to get over that virtual hurdle for a little bit, or see if there's something else that you might be interested in doing, like texting, or again, phone calls. I have my people that don't like that, then we do phone calls. But that in-person connection, it's hard to recreate virtually.
But don't most cities and states have services free of charge to talk to mental health professionals?
And there's even national hotlines. Exactly. They definitely do. Free or reduced. Actually, a lot of universities have great reduced programs, honestly. You know, whether they're in a research institution, I know nearby here, whether it's Hopkins, George Washington University, a lot of them have therapy at a pretty low cost, and that might be in person currently.
You know, and Doc, how do you feel about, I'm a person that kind of isolates myself. I don't do a lot of talking about issues. I just kind of try to figure it out myself. But I do find when I do talk to my friends, or I do just hang out, take a walk with someone, and like, it helps me. I mean, what advice do you have to people that start moving away from their friends, moving away from their family, and not talking? Because I find that a lot of the help is just talk to someone, whether it's a therapist or your friend or the person you see at the street. I know when I go into a grocery store, the family that owns the grocery store, I literally sometimes walk in there just to get a bottle of water, just so I can say good morning to them and say hello to them and just feel better, because I just love their energy. They're such great people. What advice do you have to somebody that maybe doesn't have the money for therapy, but they have access to friends or family, but they're afraid to open up?
Yeah, friends, family. I mean, regretfully, a lot of my clients who couldn't afford it or didn't want to come in person, but I consulted with, I always think sports, regretfully, like group sports are out, but a lot of people found that is so beneficial, like hanging out with their crew, playing volleyball out at the park, whatever it might be. If you don't feel comfortable talking to your family about your issues, friends are there, I think, and many different, religious institutions, there's many of great people there, and lots of community organizations that people can reach out to. Wherever, you have to find your right fit, though. I think you bring up a good point, Anthony, is it has to fit for you. If you don't feel comfortable with a therapist, I say definitely don't spend the money and go to a therapist. Go to your neighbor, if that's what, go to the guy at the grocery store. I know my the checkout lady all the time and telling me about her life. I think that does help her immensely. So, you're right. You got to do what fits best for you, but acknowledge that you need to be talking to someone and not just in your head all the time.
I talk to bartenders. That's what I like to do most. All right, producer Dave has got a great question. What about potential employees who are facing rejection after rejection after rejection? What can they do to stay positive in a world where they're getting constant no's? And how does that overall affect mental health?
Well, I get us back to kind of what just Anthony was talking about. Talk to someone else, whether it's, your friend, whether it's your supervisor, whether it's someone that that was rejected a lot. Essentially, I had this conversation with one of my clients probably 2 weeks ago where he's like, I got rejected like 2,000 times. Finally he got that job, but that really took a hit to his self-esteem. And so understanding that, the outside world may be rejecting you given what's going on. That doesn't mean you're not worthy of a job in the future. And again, talking to someone else so you feel you're not alone, but also understanding that a lot of people have, kind of faced this as well. I'm sure maybe some of you guys got rejected by some jobs at some point. I don't know. I did.
I'd like to get Chris's point on this too. But I think every job right now, you've got to be an entrepreneur. So even if you're a housekeeper, front desk person, you've got to think like an entrepreneur. You've got to look like you're opening a new business. You've got to really think that way, and you've got to stop thinking about, okay, I give my resume, I go for an interview. You've got to open up your mind. You got to be more creative, because there are fewer jobs. People are busy, and they're not giving you the attention. So it's less about you and more about the situation. Chris, what do you think about that? And how would you tell employees that have been, hitting a brick wall, and we've all been there, they have to take their own success in their own hands? And I think they just need to think differently about the application process.
Yeah, I mean, we're kind of stuck in the digital era a little bit. So some of the things that I would normally recommend, we can't do as much right now, like getting out and going to see the GM at the hotel. But you heard it last week. The biggest thing I would say is really look at your skill set and think about where it's transferable within our industry, right? Whether it's if you were a server in the restaurant, you can certainly be at the desk, or you can certainly be in house services, right? Or a valet, or, I say to try and reach up. I'm always one of those guys that says reach up. So reach up to the next level, look at a supervisory role, but get out there and give reasons about why you provide value. And I would use that statement. Here's why I provide value as an associate of your hotel or your restaurant or your organization. because if you don't get yourself noticed, there's just too many people out there pouring resumes out through Indeed and the other. I would go on the company's website. I would find specific email addresses, and yeah, you might get some. How'd you get my email address? But you also might get your foot in the door. The other thing I see people using is LinkedIn. I see people posting, "Hey, I'm this kind of person. I have this kind of skill set. If you know anybody, please refer." Because there has been a trend of leaders that are saying, "Listen, I know people are out and hurting, and if you are looking for something, tag me, and I'm going to help you try to make a connection." And I think that's something we should do. It actually leads me to a question for Dr. Berman. Is there value, Dr. Berman, in when you're down serving others? And I know it may sound counterintuitive, but putting yourself in a place of service to others, how does that affect your mental state?
Yeah, and I just want to grab something you said really important that was really, about your comment about a lot of individuals don't feel great, and like you're describing, you have to say what you can bring to the team, and I really think that's super, clear, direct kind of advice that a lot of people who are feeling depressed don't feel like they bring anything because they're feeling that way. So let me just piggyback on that, because I think for anyone that's been rejected a lot, you still have to try and reach out and say why you are special and would be a good fit in a job. Back to kind of your comment, it's very hard kind of with depression for people to get out of the same routine, over and over again. So, any way that people can mix things up is very, very helpful.
Well, one thing we're doing over here at the No Vacancy Live podcast to mix things up is on December 14th, we're going to be hosting a job fair with the number of companies that are actually hiring now, including the good folks over at Chesapeake Hospitality and some other organizations out there. Hopefully this will help bring the ones who have the jobs with the folks who needs the jobs together in an environment that could be more productive, that takes us away from having that digital facade where you just send an email and you never hear back, because it's all about breaking down those barriers so people can once again talk to people. I love what Kel is saying over here, that we need to teach them tonight to network, but really network, like how to do a handshake. Here's how to make small talk and listen to people. Here's how to sell yourself without being a jerk. None of these things we talk about, and I had to spend a whole lot of time learning them, going from cocktail party to cocktail party, and I was very, very upset to have to go to all of those cocktail parties. One year I did 105 cocktail parties, and yet I'm still standing. Dr. Berman, what can we do? What do you think about that notion of bringing people together more so in the real world, or at least face-to-face, rather than having people send in resumes via digital and not really hearing back? Or is there even a way to escape that? I know this is not really mental health, but maybe you have a thought on this issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just no matter what, if you can do it in person, it's much better. And it's practice, I think, as that last comment said, for students, I mean, we don't realize sometimes, or I don't realize that some of the students I work with aren't used to those cocktail hours, or all the different things that you have to do. They don't know the steps. So having a mentor, or even just Chris was alluding to, having a LinkedIn person that's helping them push on to different jobs, suggesting things. A lot of people, because everything's so digital, it's good and bad. They also don't have that practical practice, right now.
Right. And a very important thing from Kel, how to drink at a cocktail party without turning into that guy. Kel, you got to know yourself. You've got to realize what's happening and get out before you think you need to get out. That is valuable tip.
We've all been there, and we're standing there and go, "Oh, I'm that guy. I'm going home now."
I've had friends escorted home.
Hey, listen, it's easy. My favorite drink is soda water with a lime. It looks just like a gin and tonic, but I don't get in any trouble ever. So.
And Doc, there's another thing that a lot of people, just what it's not fair. They're not fair people. I just don't get along with the not fair people, because this is a world that is moving rapidly. COVID or no COVID, presidential election, no presidential election. There's a lot of crap we're all dealing with, right? From family, friends, work, illnesses, bad things, but also really, really good things. But there's this group of people, they're not fair people. It's just not fair. It's like, and also, okay, when is it going to stop? When is it going to get better? And I don't mean COVID, I mean like the world. And my answer is, it's not. Your perspective has got to change, because it's not going to get better. unless your perspective changes. And because the world isn't going to wake up one day and say, you know what, everything is rainbows and butterflies.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, and that's why a lot of people get turned off to therapy sometimes, because there are people that want to change the mindset to rainbow and butterflies, which I don't agree with. I grew up with a dad who said every time I'd ask me, life's not fair. Like,
if it's not going to be that, if it's not going to be that, what about unicorns and candy canes?
Yeah, exactly.
At least have that.
No. What I say to my kids all the time, and I've said it on the show, and please remember this, I tell them all the time, I say, please remember this, no one cares. No one cares, right? Like I care and your mom cares, but outside of that, people are going to say, how's your day? They don't care how your day was. Maybe they'll give you 5 minutes. Maybe you're having a bad day and they feel bad for you, so they'll give you 10 minutes. But at the end of the day, the second they leave, they got 37 things in front of them. And not that they don't care, like they of course they would love to care and love to take care of you, but they've got 600 other things that are facing them that they got to deal with. And you know, and I forget 90% of the things I'm supposed to worry about, so I'm okay.
I think,
unfortunately, he also forgets 80% of the things he's supposed to be doing on this show. Just kidding. Chris, sorry. Yeah. I didn't mean to take a cheap shot and interrupt you.
No, it's fine. I just think it's a fundamental shift, Anthony, you're talking about, in a generational shift we've seen of where there's an expected outcome now from this newer generation that it's equalized, where what we're talking about we're not talking about disequal treatment when you're trying to find a job and you're telling people how you provide value, that you're an expert at Excel, or you're an expert communicator, or you're great on the phone, or you're providing them reasons to hire you. It's not about inequality or unfairness. It's just about, like you say, Anthony, getting up, putting on your go to work suit and making stuff happen. And I think if you're really struggling to find something, give yourself a break this afternoon, and then tomorrow get up with a vengeance and say, I'm going to do things different. Somebody commented, how do we mingle with people or socialize when we're in quarantine? Well, there literally are mixers on LinkedIn. There's mixers on all the hiring boards. You can join groups where you communicate. Be an active communicator. Talk about your value there. I do keep seeing people getting hired. I know there's jobs available. There's industries that are doing well. But, man, I mean, you just got to be aggressive. You got to take control.
Yeah, you certainly do.
I think that's a good point. And taking control doesn't mean being, this stronger than you think you can be person. It means acceptance to me. It means accepting what's in front of you, not going off on a tangent that what you want. Like, again, everybody knows I love playing poker. So let's look at a poker hand. When you have a really good hand, the first two cards you get out, you wanted that flop to be something that it doesn't become. Right? You're like, oh, I needed that heart. It didn't become that heart. So now I'm going to keep chasing it. And then I'm going to lose and I'm going to go home sad. It's, it didn't come. Then, okay, accept it. Accept that is your situation. Now let's go from there. Let's not start where you want to be. Let's start where you are. And that's where I really find a lot of people have challenges and problems is, well, I'm not here. I'm not there. No, you're not. You're here. So let's start there and let's deal with that. And a lot of people just wishing things that and not dealing with the present. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I mean, I love that you used a poker analogy, but it does. I mean, it's true. It's true, though. I mean, I would use a different one. Therapy.
Hey, we're all in this show.
But totally the same idea. I mean, it's exactly because if you don't accept, then you can't see where the pitfalls are to make a better move, right? If you're just going, I want it here, I want this, and it's true. I hear that all the time. I want to be at this school, or I want to have this job. Well, that's fine, but there's a lot of steps in between, and let's lay them out. I do it a lot in therapy. Let's lay out exactly what it is. Okay. And acceptance, I mean, maybe that should be our theme today. You can see I'm a therapist. So what's our theme of our session today? I think acceptance is correct, because that's how we can really look at what we have to deal with and make a better decision moving forward.
Excellent. Chris was talking about giving himself permission to take off. I struggle with that all the time. How can we separate ourselves from the work life so we can adequately go and rest and recharge? And I could say, I've had enough. I'm going to go on a hike this afternoon because the weather's not horrible, and not feel guilty about it. Or am I forever doomed because I have a Jewish mother?
Right, exactly. Yeah, or my perfectionist, like whatever it is. Right, it's true. I mean, you say you got to first, again, know where you're going, and then what can you tolerate? So maybe you can't go on that hike. I mean, that would be ideal, but maybe you can at least go out to the store and get that cup of coffee. I have plenty of perfectionists I work with in the DC area, and they wouldn't be who they are without it. So what can you tolerate? Okay, you can go to Starbucks, great. You can take a walk. Good. And realize the other end, I always try and sell it. You're going to be more productive if you take that break, but that's
I always
hard.
had the rule. I always had the rule. I always had the rule. I left the hotel 1 hour a day, always. And I never told anybody where I was going. And a lot of times it was Central Park or around the corner or sitting at my favorite Japanese restaurant in the corner booth and just sitting there staring out the window watching, mothers and fathers with their kids in strollers. It is just really, but that 1 hour a day was 100% not negotiable. I don't remember a day in my career that I did not take an hour a day in my career. 18, 19 hours a day, sometimes 10 hours a day. But never once do I remember, no matter how busy I was, that I didn't go and escape for an hour, because I just don't have the capability of not breaking or eating at my lunch. I can't eat at my desk, my lunch, and phone calls and people coming in, people knocking on my door, or even just hearing a problem down the hall or seeing a problem. It's like I just need an hour to just make believe, I don't have a job.
Right. All right. So let's, I think we're getting on 1 o'clock. I know Chris has got to go do CEO things again. I don't know why you bother having that full-time CEO job here, Chris.
I like it so much. I mean,
you should really just be focused on us. I know. So let's get some final thoughts from Chris and we'll let him go. Then we'll wrap up with Dr. Berman.
I'm going to just take this opportunity to say thanks to Glenn and Anthony and Dr. Berman. I think it's critical that we talk about these things. It's not a weakness to be a human and have emotions that range from great to difficult sometimes. And so I'm thankful to just be part of it. And I want everybody out there that is looking for employment to remember things are going to come back. And your services, if you're in the hospitality business, I've always said it's the hardest business on the planet. People can argue with me all they want, but it's the most difficult. You're dealing with some of the most personal things people ever have to deal with. Where they sleep, where they eat, how their food is cooked, their safety. I mean, it's critical, and you have skills that are great. So be positive and go out and get something, because we are looking for great people. We just got to connect and make it happen. So,
Chris, you just said something. I'm going to quote you. Every once in a while, you have a great quote. It's not a weakness to be a human being. And think about that. And Doc, maybe to follow up on that, because to me, that's profound. It is not a weakness to be a human being. To me, what that means is we're all weak. And that's where we start from, right? When you're a baby, or even when you get older, you're in a weakened position, and you start from a weakened position. So as humans, we are weak, and we've got to do what we need to do to get stronger. But I think that was a great quote. Doc, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I mean, I think that's really well said, because the more we all know that we're all fallible. I mean, no matter how much, in the age of social media, we all don't appear that way. However, we all are. We all had trouble getting jobs. We all had trouble getting up some mornings. That, that's where we start. And we all start there, and people may not say it. A small percent may say that, but, acknowledging that in other people can be really powerful.
Right. Excellent.
Bye,
all right.
Chris.
Daniel says, thanks for giving us help. Yes, Chris had to take off. He's going to do his CEO stuff. I guess he had a 1 o'clock conference call. Dr. Berman, Mel, I just put in the chat box. It's 12/14, December 14th. Join us for the live job fair here on No Vacancy Live. So, Dr. Berman, wrapping all of this up, we're getting into holiday season. For some, it's already a difficult time. I'm concerned that it's going to be even more difficult. I keep thinking about the things I won't get to experience, the traditions that I won't be able to do, such as the very important tradition of going to see Fish at Madison Square Garden, December 28th through 31st, right? I'm going to miss out on that. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. But I don't mean to trivialize it, but there's seriously, people are going to be missing out on things that are really important. What do you tell those people? How can we get through what could be a dark time for people that don't have that community around them to begin with?
Yeah, I mean, it's just sparks back to the idea of we have to get creative with new traditions. What is it that we can do? Yeah, you're not going to have fish at Madison Square Garden. I used to go too, so
Yeah.
but it's it's really something. And talking to people about what ideas do you have. Anyone, just your, someone at the grocery store, just what are the things you may want to do? And it may simply be binge watching a show on Christmas Eve, having that time because you're not traveling. That's one of the biggest things. People have, in general, more time. So enjoy the things that you haven't got to do it previously. And then realize the other end of it, change is inevitable. So we will get back there at some point. I can say that now versus the last time we spoke a couple months ago. It looks like there is, again, light at the end of the tunnel.
And, calling someone you haven't spoken to in a while, connecting to that person, especially an older person. Because one of the things we're talking about is we've got to stay away from old people, right? Imagine being an older person that already feels maligned because they're older and they're not as people aren't considering their opinions. And in this society, unfortunately, we do kind of push older people aside. Now we're pushing them aside, saying, "Hey, we're helping you. This is for your own benefit. Go sit in your house and be by yourself." And it's it's nothing we can do, but please, we want you to survive. That's really not a life. Being alone, being an older person, and basically being shunned. You're not being shunned in a bad way, but you're being shunned because we need to take care of you.
Yeah, so producer Dave has got another question for you in regards to the same theme. How important is it for people to get out of their comfort zone when depression wants them to retreat into that comfort zone?
Yeah, I always use this phrase, and you have to take it lightly. But if when you're depressed, and it's kind of like you want to do the opposite of what you're feeling. That doesn't mean you want to go out and have a raging party right now. If you want to stay in your bed, but doing the opposite has always been very helpful and a simple phrase when you're in a bad place. So if you're laying down and you don't want to reach out to someone, you got to do the opposite, and that simply can be going for a walk. Go ahead.
And that's a good point. And it's a simple thing, whether it's somebody that wants to get in better shape or lose weight or reconnect with someone, just do a simple thing and hold yourself accountable to that. We look to too many things outside of our own abilities. It's hold yourself accountable. We've seen people do amazing things when they put their mind to it. There's a young lady that I know in the business, and she just wanted to be this fitness model. And within 6 months, she won. She was a champion fitness model. And again, not something that I would ever want to I don't understand it, but it was a goal. And it really motivated me to say, wow, she just all of a sudden said, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be my, when I get out of COVID, when I get out of what's going on, this is going to be my touch point. This is what I did for myself. And I think it's really important when we come out of this, that we all have that touch point. It was like, this is what I did. And I gained something from it. If we just come out of this and we've gained nothing, I think that is, that's a sin. Something could be gained by it.
Yeah. All right. So Dr. Berman, final thoughts to take us away.
I think we'll repeat the theme that we just had. I think, accepting where you are and understanding kind of where there are issues in your life right now. So if you're really spending a moment or two every day or once a week, even if you don't have the time to reflect on how do I feel? A lot of people don't even check in with themselves. And then what is it that might help me in this time? What can I do a little bit differently? Because we have been kind of slogging through, and a lot of people are talking about COVID fatigue. So what can we do safely that's a little different that can help us get through these last few months, of COVID?
Great. Dr. Erin Berman, thank you so much for being here. I've got to say, you have made such an impact on our audience today. Everybody really, really appreciate it. And we'd love to have you back again soon. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Take care. Man, that was really great. I loved hearing Chris's perspective on things as well, and really bringing together the executive level with the property level and what each and every one of us are all going through with the challenges that we're facing right now, Anthony.
Absolutely. It was a great show. I got to go, my brother.
All right, guys, let's wrap this show up. So being that Dr. Berman is a closet fish fan over there, I will use this lyric. Remember, you are vibrating with love and light. You are pulsating with love and light, right? In a world gone mad, there must be more than this. And it's up to all of you guys out there to figure out what that is. Thank you so much for being here today. Remember, you've got one life, so blaze on and
Be kind to yourself.
See y'all tomorrow.